Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and thank you all for joining us on this Friday, November the 25th. Well, I don't know if you know it or not, but it is officially the Christmas holidays. See behind that's the Christmas tree, and I am totally in the Christmas spirit, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight. And for those people who have partaked in Black Friday, I'm going to say that driving on the road today, either you were very busy buying up a whole bunch of stuff, or some of you just said, you know what, I'm not going outside and I'm just going to let it be. But whatever you did, I hope that you were safe with it and you made it through the day. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. Uh, World AIDS Day is scheduled for Thursday, December the 1st of this year, and the theme is Equalize, urging each of us to address the inequalities which are holding back progress in ending AIDS. Our show is fitting tonight because on this 41st anniversary since AIDS and HIV was declared a national epidemic, we have the organization who's been at the forefront since the beginning. Dr. Stephen Abbott, Medical Director for the new Max Robinson Center under the Whitman-Walker Health Incorporated. He's here tonight, and the new facility will be opening in 2023 after receiving a generous $2 million award from NIH. And he's here to talk about how this new state-of-the-art facility will bring quality access to care for individuals and families in the Ward 7 and Ward 8 section of Washington, D.C. These wards particularly experience lower life expectancy rates, higher mortality rates, and are more likely to be uninsured. So this is a really good thing for Ward 7 and 8. And also tonight, in our special feature, We See You, where we recognize Black-owned and operated businesses, we have with us tonight celebrity pastry chef, Mr. Bakes. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Bakes is here. I was gifted one of his cakes. We'll show you later on. But I was gifted one of his cakes about 2 years ago for a birthday present. And I was told that he was the man to watch. And the cake was delicious. But anyway, he's here tonight, and he's here to talk with us about his incredible journey into the world of entertainment and how he's using his platform to advocate for the LGBTQIA community. Again, Mr. Bake is here, ladies and gentlemen. And one last thing before I go on, I need to give a special shout out to my family, the McKinley Tech Senior High School family. This is our 45th anniversary this weekend of graduating from high school. And, I'm telling you, it was McKinley Tech was an amazing place to be, and I'm sure it still is, but we are thriving, and I'm looking forward to seeing my schoolmates on tomorrow. So, okay, enough about that chat. Let's get on with the chat of the show, and let me bring in my co-host, Mr. Vash Bobby and Mr. Bobby Edwards. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, season's greetings, everybody. Yeah.
Happy post-Thanksgiving.
Happy post-Thanksgiving to you.
So, can anybody want to share how was your Thanksgiving?
I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I had a wonderful time with some friends and got lots of calls and texts during the day, but I ate like a king last night, including my good brother Sundiata's gumbo, which was like the icing on my cake up for Thanksgiving.
All right, for that plug for Sundiata's gumbo.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
indeed.
delicious.
We can
I
get
don't
it
mind
at
tasting that.
we can get it at Sundiata's house near you. Okay.
Yeah, he'll love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Vash?
It was really lovely. Got a chance to spend it with some people that I've been spending Thanksgivings with over the last couple of years. Very lovely, tasty food, great company. It was a really, really good time. And what about you?
I had a great time. I saw my favorite two aunts yesterday and my favorite cousins on my mom's side. And I mean, it was just, I just loved every minute of it. So it was a great day to be with family. And we did something that I haven't done in a long time. After we ate, we played games.
Nice.
And I just loved it. And so it was a great day. It was a great day. And hold on, I'm looking at the comments, and I saw Sean popped up, but I don't see him in the comments section. So hey, Sean, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us. So I don't know what's going on with that. I know some folks are up in here, but anyway, we're gonna move on. So again, thank you guys for sharing what you did for Thanksgiving. Really appreciate it, and great to see you.
Absolutely.
Both.
Lots of blessings.
Thank
Right
you.
on.
Thank you.
And just to catch up with what's going on in the news, more things are developing with the nightclub shooting in Colorado at Club Q. Just such a tragedy. My thoughts are with the families and the friends and the people that were affected by that amazing shooting. And, something just has to be done. There has been an interview with the father of the shooter. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that. It's just a crazy piece of reporting where the father talks about after he hears that his son has killed all these people, he just said, well, I'm just glad he's not gay. Like somehow being an assassin is better than being gay. It was just kind of an incredible thing to watch.
Sorry, Vash, I didn't hear that. So the person who shot the victims in Club Q,
right?
His father said he's just glad that his son is not gay.
Right. He heard that there was a shooting up in the club and that it was a gay club, and he was like, "Oh, I hope he's not gay."
Wow.
Yeah,
like, I hope so relieved.
I'm glad you told me, because the next time I see something that will show any stories related to his father, I don't want to see it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you told me that, Bosh. I hadn't heard that. So that's ridiculous.
It's disheartening.
Yeah, it really is. And it goes back to the conversation we were having a few weeks ago, which is, are the parents of these people that commit these atrocious gun violence incidents, are the parents somehow responsible? And this guy, when you listen to that interview, you're like, you are 100% responsible.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's again, we're right on target with that again. But thank you. I'm going to avoid that at all costs. So, but I'm praying for the folks at the nightclub shooting that happened at the nightclub. There were 5 people who were shot, and I don't know if we have an image of them, but there were 5 people that were shot. And
I'll just say 5 that were actually killed. There were actually more people who were shot.
Yes.
5 who died. Yes.
5 who passed away. Right. Wow. And let's say their names: Kelly Loving, Daniel Ashton, Raymond Green Vance, Ashley Paul, and Derek Rump.
We speak their names.
We speak their name.
Definitely.
Yeah. Prayers to their family. Prayers to their family. All right. Wow.
On a positive note, November 20th was Trans Day of Remembrance. So, I don't know if there was some sort of irony of the incident, etc., but it's, it's nice that we take the time to acknowledge that trans people exist.
Exactly.
Remember those that have passed away and vow to make sure that we don't lose any more to senseless violence.
Exactly. Visibility is critical and important, and all that we know suggests that transgender abuse, violence, and death continues to be a very, very unspoken issue in our society.
Amen. I know we saw some folks that come in again. To our viewers, I cannot see you, but I know Rose is on, and Lamont, the dating coach from waytomeet.com. He is on. He's going to be with us. Hey, Lamont, how you doing? He's going to be with us in January. Thanks for joining us tonight.
The gay dating coach. That's
yeah.
I'm intrigued here.
We're going to show you how to get your year started off right. I have a feel-good moment I want to share with everybody. It is a feel-good moment because about 6 months ago, maybe 7 or 8 months ago, I'm sorry, was that 6 years ago? Or was that, how long ago?
I don't know.
COVID years have things changed. I mean,
I'm talking about Virginia McLaurin.
It was 2016, I think that she
right,
actually,
2016. I got my dates mixed up. Yeah. This is Virginia McLaurin.
That's
she
right. DC resident.
Ago, so she was 107.
At
right?
that time, at the
At
time
that
that she
time, she's
visited with the
107.
Obama, yeah.
And she got a chance to meet the Obamas at the White House, and she danced with them. Her video went viral. Well,
Absolutely.
today she was laid to rest
Yes.
at age 113.
113. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
113. If I could live that long, what could I do?
I'm not quite sure I want to be lived. I'll
Ooh,
be
I don't
honest.
know.
I
I'm
don't think
not
I want to
saying
live to be
nothing.
113.
No.
But rest well, Miss McLaurin.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Rest in peace. A wonderful resident of the DC area, Washingtonian. So we want to shout her out. Absolutely.
Amen. So I think, Bobby, we got some other, there were some other sightings with the Obama that we want to
Absolutely.
talk about.
Absolutely. We
Right.
want to talk about, as we were talking about, Ms. McLaren as an elderly person who got to meet the Obamas. It was not the only time. This past Saturday in Philadelphia, Michelle Obama, who is on tour right now for her book, The Light We Carry. She was on tour and she had a stop in Philadelphia. And there were these two women, Eloise Brown, who is about to turn 100 years old. Somehow word got out to Mrs. Obama's team that she was ecstatic about the possibility of meeting Mrs. Obama. She was sent tickets, and she was sent tickets with the spring chicken with her, her 95-year-old sister. They got to actually get to go to the book presentation and meet Mrs. Obama. She actually came out afterwards and greeted them. And the story was, as you were saying with the other one, went viral. And as someone who was a caregiver to his mother, my mom lived to be 98 years old. Here she is during a tour of the White House that we were blessed to be able to actually attend during the Obama administration. I can just say to you that part of their legacy also is their attention to and deference to elderly people. And I think as a society in America, we somehow are not at the same level as many other countries in terms of the respect and the deference that we offer the elderly. And so it was just a beautiful, as Ms. McLaren was being laid to rest at 113 years old, here were also these other two women at 100, almost 100 years old, 95 years old, and me thinking about my mom who lived to be 98, who also had the pleasure of being able to visit the White House. That it's certainly not the legacy of the president who came after them,
Right.
and certainly seems to be a bit more reminiscent of the Bidens.
See, you almost took me out of my joy space. Okay, but talking about that was there president after president? I'm sorry, yeah, Biden.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. But thank you guys. Are you guys ready to move on with the show? Because
Absolutely,
I'm
we've
so
got a very
excited
special guest. Yeah,
about having this guest here tonight, and we have some very important questions that we want to ask him. And so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the he said stage, Dr. Stephen Abbott, medical director with the Max Robinson Health Center, Whitman-Walker Health Incorporated.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, how you doing, Stephen?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Thank you for being here. And we know that it's Thanksgiving week, and so again, I'm really grateful that you were able to adjust your schedule and be here with us. It really means a lot. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. So Dr. Abbott, can you take about 60 to 90 seconds to tell our viewers about your role as the medical director for the Max Robinson Center?
Sure. So Max Robinson Health Center is a community health clinic that's in Southeast DC. We're on 2301 Martin Luther King Avenue. We are actually named in honor of a gentleman, Max Robinson, who was an African-American man who died of AIDS in 1988. He was a news anchor at ABC News. He co-hosted the nightly news nationally right before he passed. And at the time that he got sick, he did not disclose his status for various reasons. It was 1988. There's still a lot of stigma around HIV, but there was even more back then. But when he passed away, he wanted his family to let people know that that was what was the cause of his ultimate demise. And in honor of him, we have been providing HIV care in Southeast for over 20 years. I am an infectious disease specialist. I've been at Whitman-Walker for 6 years, and I took on the role as site medical director a year ago. We will be transitioning into a new space to provide more access to care and a broader range of services to folks living in Ward 7 and 8.
Well, and thank you for sharing that, because you made me realize most people who know me or follow me is because of my involvement with fashion. And about 20 years ago, I was on tour with Absolute Vodka and Seagram America, and I did a big fashion show at the French Embassy, and all the proceeds went to the development of the Max Robinson Center.
Wow.
And that was 20 years ago. And so, wow, you just took me down memory lane. Thank you, even for that. So okay, I'm going to open with the first question. In your personal and professional opinion, as a medical professional, share with us what you thought life was like before HIV and AIDS, Stephen.
So I'll be honest. I'm 52. I'm a Black gay man who came out in 1986. No, actually, 1988.
What's 2 years?
And it was a scary time. I mean, you're coming into your sexuality when there's a virus out there that you're hearing horror stories about. People are like Arthur Ashe are passing away. Max Robinson is passing away. Michael Magic Johnson discloses his status, and everybody's in shock. It was a tough time, and I'm not old enough to know what it was like before, but it was a tough time negotiating identity, sexuality, relationships, and to some degree it still is. I don't think any of that has really gone away. But the difference today is that we have multiple modes of treatment and prevention that we didn't have back then. And fortunately, I think a lot of folks who are now coming to terms with their sexuality, their identity, aren't faced with the same fear and, quite honestly, trauma that many of us older folks went through. They aren't burying friends. Like between undergrad and med school, I actually had about 7 years. I'm kind of a non-traditionalist in many ways, including my path to med school. And during that time, I actually buried 3 friends of mine. They were all Black gay men who had college degrees. They had good jobs with insurance, but they just never connected with care, and they ended up ultimately dying from deaths that were preventable. And so that was actually one of the reasons why I ended up in the field I'm in today. People, I'm surprised, still think of HIV as a death sentence. There are fewer diagnoses now, thankfully, but treatment has become incredibly easy and very straightforward. It's not 1992 where people were taking 8 pills a day with horrible side effects and really had impacts in their quality of life. Today, folks can be on 1 pill once a day with minimal, if any, side effects, achieving an undetectable viral load and live normal, healthy lives. I actually see and work with patients whose HIV is the least of their medical problems. I often have folks who will have a harder time controlling their diabetes or their COPD or their obesity. I mean, they can take their pill once a day and keep their viral load undetectable. And now we have long-acting injectables. So I have about 10 folks who are getting their treatment through an injection every other month and don't even have to take pills. I mean, it's a world of difference compared to 1992. But I think some of the underlying issues of access to care, stigma, fear, disclosure are still there.
Wow, that's an amazing story you share. I am 61, and so I am indeed old enough to remember having to bury more than enough friends to this disease. Among those, including my own sister, who in '95 succumbed to the disease as a 30-year-old heterosexual woman, as an African American woman. The health community was clearly not necessarily putting a lot of focus in that community. And as a Washingtonian, I'm very familiar with Whitman-Walker, which has certainly a local reputation, but also a national reputation So could you share with us a little bit, Stephen, about what Whitman-Walker has done in the fight against AIDS, both locally and nationally?
So historically, Whitman-Walker was sort of born out of a STI clinic that served mainly gay men, and then they added lesbian and women's health services. And then in the late 80s, when HIV hit, we were one of the only places in DC where people could go to get care. Every HIV medicine that's now in use has been tested, if you will. At Whitman-Walker, we have a very large research department and been involved in multiple clinical trials for everything from AZT to the new injectable medications. We work very hard to provide care to everyone, regardless of insurance status, sexual orientation, race, gender identity. Our goal is to be a place where people feel safe, where they can come, be their authentic selves, and live healthier lives, not just due to their HIV status, but we also provide care for people living with opioid use disorder through medically assisted treatment. We work with folks who are transgender and provide gender affirming services. And we do primary care. So we have expanded quite a bit over the years. There was a point where we were seen as the AIDS clinic because that was a large part of what we did. But we have since become a federally qualified healthcare center, and we do see everyone. But we are still rooted in our origins and our history of being an LGBTQ clinic with a focus on providing excellent HIV services.
Wow. I'm thoroughly intrigued by this notion that there is a once every 2 month injectable experience to treat HIV and to prevent AIDS. That's huge in terms of the amount of advancements in care. As we were talking about putting together the show, we did want to kind of understand these advancements, although they seem to be accelerating. Did they lag because HIV and AIDS was still considered to be a gay disease?
So I do believe that there is institutional racism and homophobia in healthcare, but I don't think that's the reason why some of these therapies took longer than anybody would have wished. Advancing healthcare, particularly with a virus as quite as, for lack of a better word, tricky like HIV, has just taken time.
Okay.
I'm when the pandemic hit and everybody was rushing to the healthcare industry to come up with answers, it really reminded me of what it was like in the first several years of HIV and AIDS, that people came to us for answers and we didn't have those answers. Those answers have taken time. We want to be sure that we do things in a very methodical fashion that's driven by the science and is safe and effective before we roll it out into offering people new treatments. These injectables have been in the pipeline for several years. We've been hearing about them, and they're finally here. Right now, it's just one. It's called Cabenuva. It's actually 2 injections, 1 in each hip. And there are some eligibility criteria. It's not one size fits all. Not everybody is going to be able to take advantage of this option, and some folks don't want to be burdened with the twice every other month visit to the office to get the injection. But it's nice to know that we have multiple tools in our toolbox when it comes time to actually offer somebody therapy, as opposed to 1992 when all we had was AZT. I mean, we've come a long way. There's still a long way to go, but this virus is proving to be quite villainous, for lack of a better word.
Even still, you even find still that it still is a wily kind of a virus that's hard to pin down?
Yeah, so the problem is the virus actually incorporates itself into the host genome, the genetic material of, for instance, white blood cells. And that makes it very difficult to eradicate. Unlike other viruses that replicate in other parts of the body that don't insert themselves into the genetic code of a host cell, you can clear it. You can clear the infection. This infection has a nasty ability to linger. Like the people who have been cured, so to speak, are folks who had their their immune systems wiped out because they were getting treatment for lymphoma or leukemia, and they had a bone marrow transplant. I mean, HIV can be cured, but in some cases, the cure may actually cause more harm than good. But if you have leukemia and that's your only course of treatment, you get a 2-for-1. But the problem is we don't know how to get the virus out of these cells that aren't actively replicating, that are lying dormant as their normal function in the immune system. So that there's always going to be what we call a reservoir. And folks are trying to figure out how to activate that reservoir, or maybe better option would be to come up with a therapeutic vaccine so that somebody who's positive would get vaccinated and develop antibodies that would neutralize the virus anytime it raised its ugly head. So there are lots of really smart people who have been working at this for their entire careers, and we're making progress. It's just taken longer than anybody would have ever expected.
I'm just going to say right now, I'm going to thank you a few times during this conversation, but for what you just explained just now, and how where I've been with, okay, we are at a place where there are drugs or that are available, or the drugs that people who are living with AIDS and HIV are taking, that put them in an undetectable mode. So I've been battling, well, if you can do that, why can't you find a cure? You know what I'm saying? And so to have you just explain it the way you just did, Stephen, it really helped me. And because I've been battling with that for at least 3 or 4 years since that whole, what do you call it? The whole being undetectable and what the meaning of all that is. So thank you for explaining that.
Stephen, one of the things you mentioned also was that, this generation, as a result of some of their experiences and the resources and medicines that are available to them now, they don't necessarily have the same recall that we have in terms of the harshest sides of it. And it's not like their lives are not impacted, but they're certainly impacted in a very different way. Do you feel in any way that that's worked in some ways as a disadvantage in terms of people's being vigilant or just being protective of their own health?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I often find myself having to check my response, particularly when somebody finds out the diagnosis and they're not particularly disturbed by it. Like when I was 24, 25, if somebody got that diagnosis, they saw it as a death sentence because so many people were dying.
Yes. Yep.
And so we took measures to modify our behavior and protect ourselves, including, aggressive campaigns for condom use and safer sex and limiting your number of partners and knowing your status. And today, that same social consciousness, I don't want to say it's not there. And in some ways, I'm glad that it's not there, because we've made progress and people aren't dying. But you're right. Younger folks today aren't dealing with the same set of consequences that we experienced when we were younger.
Right. A lot of I think the younger generation's attitude is, well, if I get HIV, I'm not going to die. And so, I can keep living, and it's not going to really interrupt my life. And that is in my opinion, a very sad place to be, because having HIV is you have it for the rest of your life.
So for me in clinical practice, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I've had to sort of reframe the way that I look at HIV and prevention, because we now have prevention strategies that the four of us didn't have access to in the form of PrEP. And we now know that people who are undetectable don't transmit the virus. So part of the education that I'm doing in clinic with folks is that, if you are positive and you get your viral load undetectable, you're not going to transmit it to other people. If you're HIV negative and you're on PrEP, you're not going to become HIV positive. So we want to be sure that we deliver that message in a similar fashion to both sets of folks, and keep it what we call status neutral. So that if we keep folks undetectable, we provide various means of prevention, we can slow and eventually end the pandemic.
Wow.
I'm gonna steer this conversation just slightly off a little bit. Stephen, we need your opinion on something. I don't know if you know about this, but Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf has signed a law punishing HIV with up to 10 years in prison if a person has HIV. And he just signed this new law that makes it a felony to pass on a communicable disease when they should have known that they had it. And the HIV Justice, this is according to the HIV Justice Network. So I don't know if you know about that, but if you do, please shed some light on that and how this law could impact or affect people living with HIV and AIDS.
So this issue comes up like on a cycle. I don't know if it's like every election year or every 5 years, but this isn't. I'm not that familiar with what's going on in Pennsylvania, but this concept is not a new idea. And what it usually ends up being is that somebody's trying to drive folks to the polls. Like they don't understand medicine, they don't understand transmission. They don't understand that even in a court of law, how are you going to prove any of this?
Right.
So I don't know. I'm sure that it will be aggressively challenged in the legal system, and hopefully it'll get shot down in the courts. But it's a shame that today we're still talking about HIV as a transmission as a criminal event.
Right.
I mean, we need to stop stigmatizing, stop criminalizing, and start educating and actually encouraging people who are positive to get in care and on treatment.
Because I was a bit disturbed. I don't live in Pennsylvania. One of my co-hosts does, and I didn't know. I wanted to make sure that we had a discussion on that because it just didn't sound right. But if it comes,
we have an entire legal department, and I'm sure we'll be happy to come in and talk to you all about that one.
Bring them on! Bring them on!
They will have a much more articulate and informed answer than I do.
No,
they're paid to.
You did very well.
They're paid to. You did mention the use of PrEP, and I have certainly heard a lot of young people speak to PrEP. But am I mistaken that there can also be some false assumptions about PrEP because PrEP does require consistency and of that nature as well?
So pre-exposure prophylaxis, also called PrEP, to prevent HIV infection can take several forms. It's not, again, one size fits all for everyone. Truvada was the first medication that was approved for PrEP, and then the second generation of Truvada called Descovy got approved for PrEP. It's basically a backbone of HIV treatments that we've shown if you take it every day and get exposed to HIV, the virus does not establish infection. The key is you have to take it every day. So it takes about 7 days once you start taking it for it to reach effectiveness, and then you should take it for 4 weeks after potential exposure. Again, it's not one size fits all. Some people go on it, some people go off it. There is an alternative form of dosing that isn't in the official CDC guidelines yet, but folks could take double the dose 2 hours before a sexual encounter, and then a single dose for 4 days after that. So that in some ways people go on and off it that way. There's also now an injectable, much like the injectable HIV treatment, only it's one shot instead of 2. And when that's in your system, it's more effective than the pills. The key is that if they're going to take it, you have to be consistent and keep yourself covered with this biochemical prevention. Otherwise, your risk of infection is not prevented. I mean, if you don't take the pill, it's not going to work.
So you've answered my question. So to engage in sexually with someone, you are counting on them being consistent and doing what they're supposed to do.
No, I'm counting on myself to take the pill.
Right. It's about you being consistent with what you're doing.
Got it.
With your little army running through your bloodstream, doing what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if somebody's positive,
army
and
thanks you.
Well, congratulations, first of all, on your position
Absolutely.
at
Thank you.
Whitman-Walker and with the new Max Robinson Center. What really makes this center such a special thing in addition to the whole Whitman-Walker arsenal of healthcare?
Oh, it's not just the space, but it's what we're going to be putting into the space. Right now, we're serving about 5,000 people out of 4 exam rooms and 2 dental chairs. We're going to be up to 65 exam rooms and I think 12 dental chairs, 6 floors, 75,000 square feet. We'll be able to see 15,000 people a year, and we'll be expanding services to broaden our medically assisted treatment for opioid use disorder. We'll have more behavioral health options. We'll have an entire division for adolescent care. We'll have radiology services, mammogram, x-rays, complete pharmacy. It's going to be a game changer for Whitman-Walker. It will actually become our flagship. Right now, the Northwest Clinic tends to be more of our flagship, but we're making a shift. We're going to be focusing more on Ward 7 and 8 in this new facility.
And where's the discotheque going to be?
Well, actually, if you go up to the rooftop, we have
Exactly,
a
I'm
really nice
looking.
roof.
Okay. How's
We have a
people
pretty nice
pumping
view.
through the system on a regular basis? And that's incredible. Again, as a Washingtonian, I really want to say to you, not only what it will offer, but where it is being offered is a profound statement in many ways.
I mean, Whitman-Walker is really committed to community in ways other organizations I work with haven't been. I mean, one example is the way that we responded to the pandemic and the way we responded to monkeypox. I mean, some folks talk the talk, but I think we really do walk the walk.
Well, I have to
Yeah,
say,
you do.
You
Here's
have
your
been,
website, and clearly you are still up on top of monkeypox and getting service updates and really servicing the community.
well, and you've been a part of my life. I know for 40 years, Whitman-Walker, at least that I remember, Whitman-Walker has always been a staple, or at least a name in DC as it pertains to eradicating HIV and AIDS. Stephen, I know with all that you've shared with us today, I'd like for you to take a couple of moments to share some of your favorite success stories about being at Whitman-Walker Health before you leave us.
So I'm really proud of the way that we responded to COVID in March 2020, when there was sort of this period where we weren't sure if it was okay to leave our doors open, if we should still be seeing people in person. CDC hadn't really given us guidelines. The DC Department of Health was still working it out. I mean, it was an unknown time in world history, but we decided very early on that because we have so many patients who are at high risk for death or dying from COVID due to their CD4 count or other immunocompromised conditions, we shut down in-person visits only for people who had symptoms. So we continued to see people who could potentially have COVID so that we could help treat and triage them. But we flipped everything else to telehealth. And we did it in like 4 days. I mean, it took an effort across departments, IT, community health, medical, the pharmacy. I mean, the pharmacy shut down and flipped to doing everything through the mail or delivery. And it allowed our patients to continue to access care, but stay home and feel safe. I mean, it was scary. I'm sure. I mean, we're sort of moving on from it now, but it was a challenging time. And my colleagues continued to show up at work, and we were seeing people in our N95s and our full PPE and swabbing them for COVID. People continued to come to work and do the work that needed to be done, even though there was a lot of fear and anxiety about getting exposed. So that is, I think, the prime example of how we respond to the community's need, and we work together as a team across departments. We're all aligned with the same mission.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, that's sweet. So how does someone contribute to Whitman-Walker?
Financially?
Yeah, like anyway, like what do you need, and how do people really?
Not just financially, but how can one support the various ways one can support that? the organization?
So we do have a community health department that does a lot of outreach. So if you're holding a function or an event and you want to have the mobile testing van there to do education and testing, that's always one option. We do take volunteers. There's another department that does that. So there was a time, and we're getting back to it now, but we have a sexual health and wellness clinic that's run in the evenings for people to come in and do their STI testing, regardless of whether or not they're a patient with us. And that's completely run by volunteers. So that's an excellent way for somebody who wants to be involved and help take care of the community from a health perspective. And then we're always glad to take financial contributions.
Right on.
Your legal team will thank you for that one too.
Well, Stephen, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Like I said, I'm just thanking you like throughout this whole discussion, because we really needed to talk about this and we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Stephen Abbott, Site Director for the new Max Robinson Center, opening up in Ward 7 and 8 in 2023. Thank you, Stephen, for being here. Don't go away, because we're going to bring you back at the end of the show. Thank you so much.
Steven.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, lovely.
Who knew?
Great information. Great.
Yeah.
information.
Who knew? Thank you, guys. Well, I don't know how you. I hope. Look, I wish I had a plate or something here with our next guest. One of his cakes
You're
or
not
something
alone.
on a plate that I could, because I've had it, so I know.
I was gonna say, you're not alone. You've been talking about this man's baked goods for a while now. So
Look, somebody gifted me this cake for my birthday 2 years ago during COVID. And I'm telling you, I was mad. I didn't want them to eat the cake. Okay, I didn't want them to take the cake home. But this gentleman by the name of Mr. Bake, ladies and gentlemen, is right here in the Washington, D.C. area, and he has become a celebrity pastry chef. And so we have him here tonight. So we're not even going to belabor this anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Can we bring on Mr. Bake, please?
bam, bam.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
I'm calling him Kareem, but to everybody else, I've been calling him Mr. Bake, okay?
Either one is fine. Either one is fine. I've been called, obviously, Kareem all my life, but I've been called Mr. Bake for over 15 years, so it's fine.
Well, first, I want to congratulate you first, brother, because you are doing it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
You are doing it, and we are proud to have you on this show. So to keep it moving, give us about 60 or 90 seconds and tell us what inspired you to become a professional pastry chef to now Mr. Bake.
What inspired me was my love of sweets as a young kid. I've been baking since I have been in the 5th grade. I fell in love with sweets at a young age. My family's originally from the South, but I was raised and born in New York City. So I have a lot of Southern qualities and mannerisms in me. And we cook a lot. You already know food is the way to our heart, and food is the way to bring everybody together. And that is really what started me on my path. From a young age, I already knew that I wanted to be my own boss. And I had 3 jobs that I wanted to do. So it's either the cooking field, the baking field, a teacher, or a lawyer. And my middle school wound up having a home economics course, and I wound up signing up for that. And that was what really solidified that this was the path that I was going to take. And I was like, I'll try to intertwine some other things in it as I continue to navigate that. And that's what I did. And I've been doing this for a very long time. As I said, I went and graduated culinary school. I worked in a lot of bakeries to learn every aspect of what it meant to manage and own a bakery, and soon to manage people. And here we are now. And then we're going to get into it, I already know. And then in the course of navigating that, I decided that I wanted to challenge myself and see what it was to go up against other pastry chefs and bakers on national TV, which I led to getting my first competition in 2018, and as well as winning that competition in 2018.
What competition was that?
It was a one-off show called Bake It Like Buddy, which is the Cake Bosses show.
Oh yeah.
So I got to serve my award-winning, which what it made become what made it become award-winning was a sweet potato cake, and he was just over the moon about it and said it was the best cake that he ever tasted.
I think we need to, Vosh. Don't I think we need to be able to weigh in on that. Don't you agree?
Well,
If by way in you mean tasted, I'm saying yeah.
We're not going to trust Buddy to make that decision.
I mean, because Buddy has been known to lie, but I want
you know, and it could have been for ratings. It could have been all those things. I think
Okay,
we
first
need
of all,
the
to.
pretty smile. It could have been any reason whatsoever.
First of all, that man didn't have no reason to lie to us. Let me tell you that. And I don't think, and you know, and I know y'all. I know y'all joking. But you know,
No.
oh well, okay. If you guys cook, right? If you cook or made a dish before, and people have had your product or your dish, and you know, either they knew you made it or didn't know you made it, that response that you get, you know what a genuine response looks like.
Absolutely.
And that was like the way this man said, "This is the best cake I ever had. I don't get mad if I steal this recipe and put it on my menu." Like he's constantly kept drilling in how he truly enjoyed what he just ate, and he's never had that type of cake before.
That's excellent.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it sounds absolutely unique. So I mean, yes,
I know how Buddy felt. Okay, because when I sliced that birthday cake, and there were 10 other people waiting for a slice behind me, I was like, "Can 4 of you all leave now?" Okay, because I had mine. So I know what Buddy's talking about. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just had to get.
I'm going to say,
I need your help, Alvin. Thank you, Alvin.
I'm going to say,
I had to get a plug in there.
Vash and I can vouch. Like he has literally, from the moment he shared with us that you were going to be on the show, whenever he mentions your name, he's like, "Guys, this man, like that you've earned your name." And so Vash and I are a little salty. We're not going to, pour tea on air, but we're a little salty because
I know.
I'm not salty.
Hold on.
I'm optimistic.
In the whole spirit of Thanksgiving, Mr. Bake has been busy. Okay?
Yes.
And I was trying to look out, viewers, you know how I do. I'm a giver. I was trying to get cake shipped. Okay, I was trying to go pick it up and take it. Look, I've been privileged to do it. We're gonna move on because you all not gonna put me up against the wall. Because you know
no. We do not want to make you feel bad that you were here without cakes for us. I would hate to make you feel bad.
Speak for yourself.
I'm good with it. That's why he said because he's saying he wants some cake.
Next question.
I just know. Okay. I noticed that you use your platform and your baking for activism. You are very, very active in terms of promoting equality for the LGBTQIA plus communities. Why is that important for you?
One, because I am a member of the community. Two, growing up in the 90s and looking out my window, or listening to what adults were saying, or just the whispers in the streets of just how the world has always looked down on us and shunned us. And I'm glad that you had me on when we were just talking to the doctor most recently, and just, the stigma you heard around HIV/AIDS, the stigma they put around Black people and then Black queer people at that. And I've always, as a young kid, always said that I wanted to be a part of creating change.
Absolutely.
But what happened was I lost my mother in 2017, which is really what pushed me to do this. And coming through that adversity, God spoke to me, the universe spoke to me, and it was like, you know what? One, after doing the first show, I had a really good time. And I was like, I should do more TV. But then something hit me. It was like, there's nobody in your arena on national television or who's, traveling, who represents our community as an openly Black or brown queer person. There's nobody. We got the Carla Halls, we have the Bobby Flays, we have the Cake Bosses, and the list goes on, you know what I mean? But we don't have anybody who we can sit there and say, hey, a young Black or brown person can say, a queer person can say, I want to be like Kareem. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just, I want to be like Kareem, but it was like, I want them to understand it's okay to show your full self.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think that that's truly the big message. And I just happen to do it through television and do it through my passion of baking. but it's really about it's okay to be yourself. You know what I mean? Let's break down these stigmas. Let's start walking in our light and start walking in our truth. You know what I mean? So that was the catalyst and the reason why I decided to be very boisterous about it and start to work on myself so that I can stand grounded in my truth and in my person.
Absolutely.
Do you think you're making an impact?
I do. I believe so. People have already, chimed on me if it's DMs, messaging, or see me in the street. They're just really proud about, representation. They make sure, like the people that know, they make sure they say they're like, yo, thank you for showing up for us. Like you putting us on, and I like that. They're like when I did the Beat Bobby Flay episode, they was like, yo, there's nobody in television who looks like you and who is doing what you are doing.
Right on.
That's really powerful. You mentioned some of your training, culinary school, etc. I would imagine a range of experiences in terms of either working for yourself or working with others and your training and so forth. What would you say has most prepared you for this moment where you find yourself today? Was it the actual formalized training, or was it experiences in other venues?
Oh my God. All right. So to be honest, you can't really answer that question truthfully and put it all in one place. Because I'm a believer that everything that I've experienced, my whole life journey has prepared me for this particular space and the space that I'm about to walk into.
I feel a word coming out. I'm about to shout over here. Come on.
Yeah, no, I just,
Like,
but I will say the biggest thing is community.
yes.
Growing up in Harlem, I'm from Harlem, Sugar Hill, 148th and Convent, if those who know anything about New York City or Harlem. And
I said a hip, a hop, a hibbit, to hibbit to the hip to the hop. You don't
Oh my
stop.
God.
And I think the community and my family pouring into my passions. I served a lot of people cakes. You know what I mean? If I was, my mannerisms might have been a little feminine at the time. They didn't chastise me. They didn't cast me out. My family still loved me. So I'm so blessed and grateful to have that type of support and the support of the community. So I would always say that the community is and has been the reason why Mr. Bake is where he's at. I was just driving the boat, you know what I mean? For the most.
That's beautiful. It's clear that people have poured into you, and your mission obviously is pouring into others.
It's to pour back, as Maya Angelou said in several of her speeches, is be a rainbow in somebody's cloud. And that struck me because people have been rainbows in my cloud, just by being honest to God truth about how the product tastes, or just sampling the product, or just encouraging me and tapping me on my back. I didn't know how important that was until most recently.
Well, I look forward to being a rainbow in your cloud and tasting of this cake at some point.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
Mr. Bake, clearly from one creative to another, you come up with some of the most creative and some of the most amazing cake designs. Okay. Where does all of that come from? Where does your creativity come from when you are about to embark on one of your creations?
On the creation? A lot of different things. So one of them would be the client. You're making something for a client. You always want to get their perspective because you want to please them. That's number one. They're paying you. And then number two, I draw a lot of inspiration. New York, again, one of my most therapeutic things in New York was to walk around. I used to take really long walks, and I love the architecture of the building. I love the art and design of fashion that people would wear, their hair, their nails, their speaking. So a lot of my inspiration is drawn from a lot of the things that I see. And then sometimes like flavor profiles come in my head, you know what I mean? Just like that, if you, as you said, you're creative, so we're a little weird, so we'll be thinking about something in the middle of like being out. You're like, ooh, this flavor work together. And you're like, yo, we having drinks. What you talking about, bro? And so I go back in the lab, aka the kitchen, and now whipping it up, So a lot of it draws from, like I said, outside influences, but when it comes to like the palette or flavor combinations, that usually interacts in my head over things that I ate already too. You know what I mean? Just in my field, I make sure I eat a lot of different things from different bakeries or pastry chefs and things like that.
Okay. So what is your favorite flavor combination?
He's like,
Nope. All right. So one that sticks in my head is one I actually did for Food Network's The Big Bake, and it is a chocolate cake. I do a raspberry preserves, vanilla cream cheese, and then a fresh strawberry slices on top of it, and it's layered. So all of my cakes are 4 layers of cake and 3 layers of filling. So you have these. As soon as you cut into it, I like to build flavor profiles in my slice cakes. So I'm not just like, oh, I want a red velvet cake by itself with cream cheese frosting. I'm like, oh, let's add chocolate ganache or raspberry preserves. You know what I mean? Let's jazz it up and let's really play with our palate and introduce new things to our lives. That's the only way we're going to change is we challenge ourselves to do things out of our norm.
oh my goodness. So I have a quick two-parter. First of all, that sounds wonderful on so many ways. But you know, the co-hosts, we were talking about also dietary restrictions and things like. So I'm curious about, you know, do the dietary restrictions interrupt the creativity for you? Are you able to still produce these things with, you know, meeting some of these dietary restrictions? And of all the people that you've baked something for, of course, outside of Alvin King, who would you say has been like the most well-known?
All right. So number one, dietary restrictions. I tell people I bake with love, so you're gonna worry about that. But no, honestly, I have been challenged in my new space to create things that meet dietary restrictions because now I am reaching a broader spectrum of people, and you just never know who the product is going to land in their hands or
you don't want to limit yourself
or your name. So we've been doing some vegan and gluten-free products. I'm looking to experiment more in that realm to create the level of quality of product that's the Mr. Bake standards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm still working there. So
Okay.
I do still all full fat, all sugars, and all of that. So if you have dietary restrictions, I am the wrong person to come to because I'm putting all types of love into what I do.
Amen.
And so let's that. And then out of all the people, ooh, I would probably say it was
Outside of Alvin King, of course.
Okay.
I was getting ready to say that, but look, I was being humble. But go ahead.
That's why I said outside of Alvin.
I was being humble.
All right, I'm gonna say this, and I didn't think I would be baking. So the cake I just mentioned, the guy I made that cake for is a well-known cake artist. His name is Ben Ron Israel. He's white, but he's also in the queer community. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of his. Like I'm one of his, you know. So for me to bake for him and for him to leave off and saying this was the perfect chocolate cake, I was sold on that. I was like, give it to me. But I was graced to bless like Shirley Shepherd most recently, where she literally forgot she was on TV and devoured the cupcake, and she has dietary restrictions. And I was privy to that. So I didn't think she was going to eat the product the way she did. And baby, when I tell you, she devoured the product, dropped the product on the floor, kicked it under the table, and then this is Friday. I did that taping with her. Following Monday, she made me a part of her Hot Topics and said, "Mr. Bake, I never had a cake taste so good.
Wow.
We need to get him back on the show."
Wow.
So to me, I think that was the most beautiful moment because she didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And she came in. I was notified that she was coming the day before she came. And to get that type of response and reaction from her, it was beautiful and blessing.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
So what's next for you, Mr. Bakes?
Whoa! So more TV and more TV.
Mm-hmm.
You'll definitely see me hitting on the national screen again. We're looking to hit that hard, but now I'm going to be doing telling more of my story, but also showcasing more of being a judge and a host. That's the goal. Is now we're in paid gigs, baby. No more competitions. And then
well, you're established now, so
yeah.
so now you're judging others. That's it.
Thank you, Bobby. That's exactly how I feel. Thank you, Bobby. And then as well as I started a dinner series called The Family Table, and it basically brings together queer people of all walks together through food, because food always brings us together. Oh, we got okay, brings us to food. So you'll see a lot more of my dinner series running 2023. So that I'm looking to do like every 2 months where we host dinner series that are topic based.
Okay.
Right on. Well, will you come back to us with whenever you feel like it, whenever you got some stuff to talk
Please
about?
call us because we want
Yeah.
to make sure that we keep Mr. Bake on the plate.
We want to pour. We
Absolutely.
want to pour in too. We want to pour.
Wait a
Thank you.
minute.
So
Did I
listen,
just come up with a rhyme?
book me in
Did I just say
January.
Mr. Bake on a plate?
Yes, you did.
Look,
Don't sleep on it.
One
Don't
of
sleep on it.
the viewers
No.
even said like he should
I'm
change
just
his name
saying-
to Mr. Chocolate. Like
I'm
the
just
viewers
saying,
are even
don't sleep
chiming
on
in.
it. Well, look, we have reached the end of our show, ladies and gentlemen. And if we could bring Stephen back in. Thank you, Mr. Bake, for this wonderful interview. Ladies and gentlemen, next week we are doing our luxury holiday dining show. And we're going to have, she's returning, we're going to have Chef Cottrell back
Love
to
Chef
talk to you
Cottrell.
about luxury holiday dining. And Stephen and Mr. Bake, if you haven't met Cottrell, y'all need to meet Cottrell. Okay?
Yes.
Y'all need to meet Cottrell. Our words of the
Full
week.
catering.
Our words of the week this week, ladies and gentlemen, is about overcoming obstacles. Obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, or work around it. And these were words by basketball legend Michael Jordan, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to say thank you to our special guests tonight, Dr. Stephen Abbott and Mr. Bake. Thank you all for joining the fellas here on He Said. We love you. Thank you.
This show has made me hungry.
and please go to his website, and we've listed it, and you can order, you can go pick up. I know all about it. I just didn't show up today, but I will be there soon. Believe me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next week on our new episode of He Said.
He said.
He said.
Thanks, everybody. I got some leftovers waiting for me. Thanks, Larry.